Hi everyone, Raani here. You're listening to Clean With Me, the podcast where I talk you through cleaning your house. Thanks for joining me. In today's episode, we are going to straighten up your whole house. We're going to make a little bit of progress in each room. In case you're new to the show, I don't normally sound like this. I'm sick right now, but I'm bringing you an episode anyway. If you've been listening for a while, you know that I tend to use the term cleaning loosely to include that preliminary decluttering that you do to get down to the surfaces before you clean. Well, today's episode is a little less about surface cleaning as far as scrubbing and more about straightening each area of your home, tidying up, if you will. So it's time to gear up for your cleaning session. For you, that might mean freshening up. Maybe you feel like you need to wash your face and put your hair up or change into something more presentable or more comfortable, or maybe you'd like to put some fresh wax in a wax warmer or light a candle. By the way, one of my so-called wax warmers is actually a miniature crock pot. I don't know if anybody's ever seen this, but sometimes when you buy a slow cooker, it comes with like a miniature one, I guess for keeping a small amount of sauce hot, but there's just never a situation where I need to do that. So I tried putting the little wax melts in this little mini crock pot thing, or sauce warmer, if you will, and that has become yet an additional wax warmer in my house. It works great. Sometimes in the morning I will just dump the old wax into the trash and put some fresh wax in there. So just a thought there, if you have one of those miniature slow cookers and you don't use it for sauce, but maybe it's just me. The next thing you might want to do to gear up for your cleaning session, or as part of our cleaning session, is to get those machines running. And by machines, I mean your washing machine and your dishwasher if you have one. So it might be time to start a load of laundry. And for those who start a load of laundry at the beginning of the episode, I'll try to remember at the end of the episode to remind you to switch the laundry from the washing machine into the dryer. But for now, it might be a good time to start a load. If you have lots of dirty laundry and you're overwhelmed and you don't know where to begin, this might be a good time to just get some towels and underwear going. Okay? Maybe a dish rag or two. The essentials to keep your household functioning. And I realize that people listening are in all different situations, so I'm trying to make this episode customizable. Sometimes when we click, and I'm talking about myself here too, sometimes when we click on a cleaning podcast, we are just totally overwhelmed and need to make a dent in our housework. But sometimes we're just motivated to really polish things up. This episode is a little more geared toward a messy home and removing clutter, but of course, use it how you want it. There's no right or wrong way to listen. For the show to be effective, you should ideally try to work in the room that I'm talking about. But I know, like, my sister just kind of does whatever she wants while she listens. So just, whatever works for you. But I do kind of plan this show in such a way that I keep you working in a certain area for a certain length of time. And the reason for that is that it can help you avoid getting distracted, and it can help ensure that you actually make progress in each room, which is what we're going to try to do today. So I'm going to give you a few more minutes to start a load of laundry. If you have a washing machine at your house and you have something to wash, Some people say they don't have enough laundry to do laundry every day, but are you thinking about bedding? Are you thinking about towels? Maybe you need to strip a bed to start a load. Or like I mentioned, if you're in survival mode, get some towels and underwear going. Like if I'm sick or whatever, that's what I do first, because our family is quick to run out of towels. And of course, people can put on the same jeans or whatever, but they need fresh underwear. And my teenagers do their own laundry pretty much. So I'm mainly talking about the underwear for my husband and myself and my youngest son. I'm usually throwing those in with some towels if I'm behind on laundry for whatever reason. I'm usually not behind on washing though. I tend to fall behind on the folding and putting away. That's my weak area. Okay, so by now you've gotten that first machine running ideally. It's time to possibly head to the kitchen, but you might need to make a quick detour if you need to gather dishes from around the house. There's not going to be a huge emphasis on dishes, but of course, dishes are a form of clutter that needs to be controlled when you're straightening up the house. So you may need to gather up dishes and take them to the kitchen, or if all of your dirty dishes are already in the kitchen, then you might be ready to get that dishwasher running. Maybe you need to do an empty, reload, and run of your dishwasher. A lot of times we overestimate how much time that takes. It really doesn't take long at all. So just be working in your kitchen right now, getting those dishes going. Of course, if you don't have a dishwasher or your dishwasher's on the fritz right now, you might want to pre-rinse and start your first sink load of dishes, because obviously you'll be washing by hand in lieu of getting that machine running. A little shortcut method, if you don't have time to wash dishes, sometimes you can pre-rinse and then fill up your sink with hot soapy water, a little bit of, dish soap, but also drop in a dishwasher pod and then soak things in there, and then they'll be super easy to rinse. It's kind of the same principle as the dishwasher. You're kind of letting the chemical do its work, probably a little rougher on your hands when you use that dishwasher pod, but it's kind of an emergency shortcut I use sometimes. Like if I need, not everything fits in the dishwasher and I need to also do a sink load, but I also have to run and do something else. Sometimes I'll do that thing where I soak it for an hour with a pod. So one of my dirty little secrets is it's expensive, rough on the hands, but it's one of those secret weapons once in a while that you might need to use. So be working on your dishes for a few minutes, whatever that means for you, whether it's a dishwasher reboot, washing by hand, or a little bit of both. Lately, when I've been hand washing dishes, even pre-rinsing dishes, I've been big on using the Scrub Daddy and the Scrub Mommy instead of the Scotch-Brite sponges that I used to use. So yeah, I like, using those. I also have a dish brush with a handle, and of course a bottle brush for not just cleaning baby bottles. You may not have those in circulation if you're in a different stage of life, but you might still use those for cleaning the inside of glasses. The more tools you have handy, the better. While you're working on dishes, I'll just talk about my new system. I alluded to this in another episode, but I don't expect you to have heard all of my episodes. That's one thing about this show. If you miss some episodes, don't ever feel like you're behind and you have to catch up. I mean, sure, I like it when you go back and listen to old episodes. I love it when you listen every day, but it's not a series of any kind. Every episode is a standalone episode. So, if you fall off the cleaning wagon for a while and, you're maybe doing the bare minimum and not doing 30, 40 hour, sessions, 30 minute, 40 minute or hour cleaning sessions, just jump right in anytime and don't feel like you have to get caught up on the episodes. Sometimes I worry that when I create some extra episodes, people are going to feel overwhelmed. Again, every episode is a standalone episode, and there's no need to listen to every single episode. But all that to say this, lately I've implemented a new system where during the day, my kids and myself wash our dishes as we go, meaning, you fix a bowl of cereal for yourself, you're going to completely hand wash the bowl and the spoon and, the cup you drank out of, and put those in the drying rack. I'm not talking about pre-rinsing them and putting them in the dishwasher. I'm not talking about running a little water over them and sitting them in the sink. I'm talking about just completely washing them. And what I was getting at earlier when I was saying that we overestimate how long it takes to kind of empty, reload, and run the dishwasher, I've been doing a thing on most mornings where if for some reason the dishes did not get done the night before, or people snacked after I went to bed, which is common, whatever, I am making sure that the dishes are done completely in the morning, and by doing an empty, reload, and run, or if there's not enough for a dishwasher load, hand washing those few things. And it's kind of important to my system of having the kids clean as they go during the day, because we start with a clean slate. You ever notice when you're at someone else's house and their kitchen is just completely immaculate? Of course, you're going to wipe up every single crumb you drop, and you're going to be very careful, and you're going to leave it the way you found it. There's definitely, even with kids, there's definitely more of a tendency to clean up after yourself when the environment is clean to begin with. So it's just become a very important part of my routine to check the kitchen in the morning and make sure there are 0 dirty dishes. Okay? So even if we did the right thing, the ideal is that we wash dishes after dinner. Even if we did that, people might have snacked, or what's common in our house, somebody will load the dishwasher, meaning my husband, and not turn it on or something. Which I'm grateful when he loads the dishwasher, but I need to check in the morning to make sure that it was started. And if it was not started, I can usually slip in a few items before starting it, those 4 or 5 dishes that are generated after I go to bed or whatever. So yeah, I'm either going to, or if we just totally drop the ball, I might need to do a complete empty, reload, and run, and if all the dinner dishes and pots and pans are just still dirty. Either way, we've been keeping up on dishes, meaning we have not had a backlog of dishes. Worst case, I have to load and run the dishwasher first thing in the morning, which only takes a few minutes. And then there's that clean slate effect where it reminds people oh, I just dirtied a dish, I've got to wash it. They don't think about that if they're in a kitchen that has a sink full of dishes or a countertop full of dishes. Let's face it. So the system has been working pretty well. By the way, if you're ahead of the game and you're done with the dishes, start removing clutter from your countertops, wiping them down lightly. This isn't a real deep clean, but obviously every time you do dishes, you wipe the countertop, stovetop, sink area, maybe the table if you eat on the table, if you eat at the table on a regular basis. Maybe you need to sweep your kitchen every day, just depending on the stage of life you're in. I remember when my kids were toddlers, when I had, at least one toddler, I definitely had to sweep every single day, especially during a time when I had an off-white carpet, because if that kitchen wasn't swept at that particular house, stuff would get tracked on the carpet and it would stain the carpet. So it was like crucial. So yeah, just be working in the kitchen, starting with dishes and then maybe moving on to, top surfaces and then sweeping, whatever needs to be done in your kitchen. But I want you to pay special attention to excess clutter on the countertop because we're trying to remove clutter and clear off as many surfaces as possible today. While you're doing that, for the next 5 minutes, I'll kind of just explain a little bit more about my system and why it may or may not work for you. We don't do a lot of heavy cooking during the day. My kids are out of school for the summer, so this is our summer routine that, I've implemented with the dishes. It used to be like you're supposed to clear and rinse your plate and put it in the sink or whatever. But I talked about that in another episode, but sometimes they would just kind of turn on the faucet and wet the plate. And it wasn't a thorough pre-rinse. And I don't really like the idea of things going directly into the dishwasher because then that kind of depends on the status of the dishwasher. And if it has clean dishes in it, that throws off the whole system. So I have just found that if I start with a clean slate and have people hand wash during the day, it works for me. And part of it is because we don't do a lot of heavy cooking. Typically, one of us might cook a few eggs in a small skillet and then serve that with like English muffins or toast. So that pan and that spatula would be washed by hand, and as well as the plates. We're usually not all doing the same things at once. For example, this morning, my teenage son and I were the only two people up. He was going to work. I fried some eggs, made some toast. Okay. And, I washed those dishes. So, but on other days, my daughter will be the one to do it. Basically, whoever makes that would wash that pan and their own plate under this system. For lunch, we may heat some soup on the stove. We may reheat some leftovers, but we're not doing heavy cooking where we're dirtying tons of pots and pans. One of my listeners pointed out that the system wouldn't work for her because her husband will cook elaborate meals at breakfast, lunch. He has a schedule where he's home some of the weekdays. And he'll use like several cutting boards and, instead of pulling something out of the refrigerator and heating it up in that same container, he'll put it on a different plate. Just he tends to use a lot of different things. And yeah, basically they are generating a lot of dirty dishes, pots and pans. And I get that because at different stages, I used to do more cooking during the day. Maybe if you're homeschooling or something, you might have a different lifestyle where you do cook hot meals for breakfast and lunch. But for us, with me working from home, two of the kids being home all day, because, the older one has a summer job, this thing of washing your own dishes during breakfast and lunch and then has worked for us. And then at dinner time, it's back to the old system where, my husband or I cook dinner usually. It's sometimes one of the kids cooks, but the norm is my husband or I. I do teach them to cook as well, but someone cooks dinner and then the person does just clear and rinse their plate, their fork, they bring their glass up to the counter or whatever. And all those items go into the dishwasher. Okay. So anyway, that system's been working for us, but I guess everybody's lifestyle is different. I like to just kind of cook a big meal in the evenings and do kind of some convenient stuff during the day since I do work from home. Like I'm often just pulling an Uncrustable out of the freezer and eating that. and we kind of fend for ourselves and clean up after ourselves, which has been working, but no judgment here if you're kind of faced with a disaster, as I call it, and you have a lot of stuff piling up. But that having been said, we're not going to stay in the kitchen super long because we're trying to straighten up the whole house. So maybe you need to kind of pre-rinse a load of dishes that didn't fit in your dishwasher, or if you're hand washing, you might have to like leave a sink load to soak, give your countertops a swipe. And we're going to be moving on out of the kitchen soon. One final thought on the kitchen. There is another reason to sweep every day other than the thing with the white carpet and the toddlers dropping food out of the high chair. You know, we're not all in that situation. But another reason is sometimes you can accumulate clutter if you don't make a point to sweep. Our kitchen it's an eat-in kitchen, meaning our kitchen and dining area are one and the same. They're all over tile. And sometimes things get stacked in kind of the dining area part. So by having like sweeping the floor on the kids' chore lists, you know, it alternates, different person doing it. But by having that included on the chore lists, whoever sweeps, it's called a pick sweep because they have to pick up first. And yeah, there's something about sweeping that forces you to pick up, and you may not pick up if you're not sweeping. You might just become oblivious to some items that are in your dining room floor. Just a thought there. Let's move on though, because I told you we were going to make progress in several different areas. So the next place I want you to go is to one of your bathrooms, but we're going to go to all of your bathrooms, both or all of your bathrooms. You may want to grab a trash bag. Kind of a little problem we're having lately, the wastebasket in the kids' bathroom is too small. I was thinking on this, like, oh, I need to get larger wastebaskets. And then I was thinking, no, my husband and I don't need a larger wastebasket. I just need a larger one in the bathroom that's being used by 3 kids. It gets filled up quickly. My pet peeve is an overflowing bathroom wastebasket, but it can happen when you have kids. Another thought, anyway, the reason you're grabbing the trash bag is to empty your bathroom trash, if I didn't mention that. But another thought about the bathroom trash, if your pets tend to get into the bathroom trash, you need one with a lid. So mine does have a lid, but it's super tiny in my kid bathroom, and I'm going to upgrade that to a bigger one, but it is going to have a lid. So anyway, we're going to straighten up the bathrooms, okay? And there's 2 ways of cleaning a bathroom. There's that type of touch-up that you do. Let's say you get a phone call from a friend, and they're like, yeah, I'm going to stop by your house in like 5 minutes. I need to use your bathroom. I'm not saying this happens to me, but I'm just trying to give you an idea of the level. You know, I've definitely had a very short warning about somebody coming over and touched up my bathroom pretty quickly and in a lot less time than when I do a bathroom deep clean. So in a lot of these episodes, I'm having you kind of do a full clean of the bathroom, but I'm having you just pick one bathroom. But what you're going to do is touch up all of your bathrooms, okay? So whether you have 1, 2, 3, if you have more than 3 bathrooms, yeah, I don't know how you do it, but we have 2. So, and when I was growing up, sometimes we had like 2.5 bathrooms. So anyway, the way I touch up a bathroom, I remove clutter from the countertop. I, of course, deal with the trash. I make sure there's toilet paper and a fresh hand towel. Okay. And then I will clean the mirror with either a glass cleaner or a, glass and surface cleaner. And I'll use that also on the faucets. I'll wipe down the countertop. I might use a disinfecting wipe to give the sink basin a quick scrub. I'll use another disinfecting wipe to sanitize the toilet seat, behind the seat, the rim, just the exterior parts of the toilet, but I'm not going all the way down to the floor and clean the outside of the bowl like I would on a deeper cleaning session. I'm just kind of shining up the most obvious parts of the toilet, and of course giving it a swish. If I have a cleaning product handy, throw that in. Or if not, just grab that toilet brush and give it a swish on the inside of the bowl. Sometimes it's not even needed. Sometimes you're just kind of touching up, like the seat, the rim, the flusher handle. You're just shining it up. You're wiping down your countertop, your sink area, your mirror, your toilet, and just touching it up. So sometimes the part that I don't deal with on one of these quick emergency touch-ups where somebody's heading to the house is the floor, and then the bathtub and shower. I've said this before, but I like to clean the bathtub and shower when I'm actually inside it. Like I might clean the bathtub as it's draining after a bath, or the shower as I'm showering. So that's kind of how I do that. But I during one of these touch-ups, I'll shut the shower curtain, usually, after throwing away any empty containers that I find. I'll make sure everything is stocked. But yeah, one of the biggest things on a bathroom touch-up is checking on that trash and emptying that. So don't forget to do that. And of course, when you're done touching up one bathroom, head to the other. Whatever products you like to use on a quick touch-up, whether it's cleaning wipes or paper towels and glass cleaner or microfiber cloths, whatever you have handy. I've talked about this before. Sometimes you just grab a t-shirt off the floor and use it to clean the mirror, whatever works. But we're going to do that quick touch-up, and maybe envisioning somebody coming by would give you an idea of the level. Now, if I were to next head to my bathroom, there's more clutter on the countertop, typically. I'm not the only one using it, and I'm not blaming my husband either. Sometimes my girls, my teenager who lives with me, my adult daughter who doesn't, will kind of get ready in that bathroom, and their makeup will be spread out or whatever. And then I have kind of a little caddy of my stuff too, but I also have makeup drawers. So I would be putting a few things into a certain caddy that's supposed to be at my desk. I'm just envisioning what's on my bathroom countertop right now. I would be putting a few things in there, taking that over to my desk, which is another one of my makeup stations, so to speak. I would be putting my daughter's items in her little plastic box and then returning that to her bathroom. So sometimes I realize that it's not as easy as just giving the countertop a swipe. Sometimes there's some clutter. So it's important to have caddies or drawers to put things in, and just, to know what to do with stuff in a hurry. And, our method is that in the kids' bathroom, there are little boxes and caddies of their toiletries. So when I'm cleaning that bathroom, I quickly put those items underneath in those boxes, and they know that if everything's not up on the countertop, that's where they're going to find it. And yeah, if you are kind of ahead of the game and you want to get rid of some things in your bathroom, like maybe you have like a makeup drawer that's really full, you don't want to get rid of some of the makeup, but you're not really using all of it, maybe consider having more than one makeup bag or more than one makeup station. Meaning I like to kind of divide up my duplicates. Like if I've got 2 foundations going, one of them might go into the makeup bag in my purse, and another one would stay in the bathroom drawer. Then I might put some kind of powder or whatever on my desk for when I get ready for a Zoom meeting or whatever. So that's a random rabbit trail there. I'm going to give you just a few more minutes to touch up your bathrooms. If the floor is messy, Maybe you could sweep, but mainly we're trying to remove the clutter from your house and expose all of your surfaces. Then, if you're still feeling motivated after the episode, you can, dust and scrub and vacuum and do all those finishing touches. But we're trying to just get your house at least straightened up. And of course, in the bathroom, there's almost only so much straightening. Even if your countertop is real cluttered, and you've got dirty laundry on the floor that needs to go to the hamper, you still probably have time to do a little bit of wiping. So hopefully you've gotten some of that kind of stuff done in the bathroom. We are about a half an hour in, so maybe you want to grab a glass of water or something. You've been working hard, pamper yourself, take care of yourself. Sometimes I forget to mention taking a break and getting a glass of water since I'm just sitting here talking to you. There are episodes where I'm actually cleaning. This isn't one of them, but maybe get a drink of water and sit down and take a short breather. While you're resting for a minute, it's time to think about your game plan for the common areas, because we're going to spend a few minutes picking up your common areas. And what I mean by common areas, your living room, your family room, your den, your game room, whatever you call those rooms, any hallways, maybe a formal dining room, and maybe a laundry room. At my house, since I kind of lump that eat-in kitchen dining area just with my kitchen, I just call it the kitchen. My other common areas are just the living room, which is also the entryway, one hallway, and a laundry room. Okay, but you might have a bigger house. So think about your game plan for picking up those common areas. Is there trash that you're going to have to deal with? If so, you might want to have a trash bag handy. Are you going to need to redistribute things all over the house? If so, you might want to grab a laundry basket. I don't really usually do it that way, but in an emergency, if I had a ton of clutter and I was expecting guests or something, this was years ago, but I have been known to put a bunch of stuff in a laundry basket and stick it out in the garage. Okay, or inside of a bathtub and shut the curtain. Okay, yeah. I'm in a different stage of life, and I have kids and they have chores. I have, school age, older kids. Two of my kids that are living at home are two teenagers and a preteen, so they've got chore lists, and so we're not ever in that dire of a situation, I guess you could say, because we are doing regular upkeep. But no judgment here if you've gone through something. I talked to someone who today who was saying that her friend had lost a loved one, was grieving, and just really struggling to keep the house clean. That definitely happens during times of grief and depression. So you may have a lot of clutter. So, be thinking about your game plan, whether you need a trash bag, a laundry basket, or you need to just kind of head in there and start putting things away and straightening things up. Okay. If you do have school-aged kids who are old enough to follow a chore list, I definitely recommend having, a pickup as a daily chore, whether everyone's doing it every day or you're alternating to different people. You want someone to pick up the common areas every single day, whether it's you or someone else, just to keep things under control. When you go to someone's house and you have the impression that it's messy, it's usually not because they haven't dusted in a while or they didn't vacuum. I mean, it more often than not, what's making a house appear messy, and I'm not saying this in a judgmental way, I'm just, making an observation, is when stuff is strewn all over. Like, I would rather someone surprise me when I hadn't vacuumed and dusted for a while, but just everything's tidy and orderly, than for them to walk in and just everybody's shoes are out in the middle of the room, and the dog shredded a stuffed animal and there's like fuzz everywhere. I mean, what a nightmare. I don't want to be caught in that situation. So that's the kind of stuff that needs to be addressed every single day. It's bad enough when you get up in the morning and, your teenager let the dog shred something the night before and everybody left their shoes and their chip bags laying around. That's bad enough, but if it's not being dealt with every day, that can turn into a disaster quickly. So definitely, if you do the chore lists, because I know we're approaching summer. Some of you, your kids are going to be getting out of school soon if they're not already out, and you may be thinking about that summer chore list. Make sure that there's a system for picking up. And of course, it's also good to have rules. Like my kids, I'm notorious for bringing this up. Like when I was a kid, I wasn't allowed to leave my shoes in the living room. If I was watching TV and kicked my shoes off, I better take them with me when I left the room. I'm not quite that strict, but at the same time, I try to run a tight ship because these common areas are what everybody sees, especially, when your living room's on the front of your house, it's your front room. Yeah. People aren't allowed to leave stuff out, so to speak. So 1, there should be a daily pickup. 2, it's also a good idea to say something when there's a glaring problem in the middle of the day. Like, hey, why'd you leave that bowl on the recliner or whatever? Okay. So just be working on your living areas, regardless of the condition they're in any living room or family room. You're going to want to first clear the floor. That's the most glaring problem. And then clear your coffee table, end tables, couches, straighten the throw pillows, couch cushions. And again, you can worry about dusting and vacuuming later. But the emphasis of this episode is just getting everything picked up, getting the whole house picked up at once. A lot of times that's the hardest part, is getting down to those surfaces so that you can clean them. But no judgment here if after you get everything picked up, you just decide to relax. Maybe keep it picked up and wipe stuff down, vacuum and dust tomorrow. Do a deeper scrub your bathroom floor tomorrow, mop your kitchen floor tomorrow, wipe down your kitchen cabinets tomorrow. But right now we are removing clutter. What would that look like in the laundry room? Maybe throwing away lint, disposing of old detergent containers, picking up laundry that's overflowing out of a hamper and putting it into the hamper. And if you're in more of a mode where you want to deep clean and wipe down, like if you don't have a lot of clutter, obviously just be working on your common areas as far as surfaces. You can always wipe down switch plates, walls, baseboards. You can dust. There's never-ending jobs to do in your home. I'm going to give you just a couple more minutes to pick up these common areas because, again, this is a straighten. This is putting toys in the toy box, maybe if you have a living room toy box. This is, throwing the pizza boxes away if you have them sitting on the coffee table. Who knows what you're dealing with? Putting people's shoes into their rooms. Who knows what you're dealing with right now? But let's get that clutter under control. And if I've said it once, I've said it 100 times. If it takes you too long to pick up toys in the living room, maybe consider taking some toys out of circulation and having a smaller toy box in the living room. If you have small kids, I realize you want to watch them play in the living room where you can see them, but you might want a smaller toy box and you might want to put some things out of circulation and then rotate the toys in and out. See, there's more than one way to do minimalism. Minimalism doesn't always mean getting rid of everything, but it could mean just displaying less stuff. And that's kind of a goal that I have. I talk about wanting to be more minimalist, but it's not really that I don't want to own the stuff. I just want my house to look more sparse, if that makes sense. So I'm always looking for storage solutions and wanting to put away more items and display fewer items, if that makes sense. So kind of keep that in mind as you finish picking up. I'll give you about one more minute to straighten up those common areas before we head to the bedrooms. And notice I said bedroom plural. In a lot of my episodes, I say it's time to clean a bedroom that you're responsible for, but it's also important to walk into every room of your home. If your kids don't let you walk into their room, that's a major red flag. The other day, my 16-year-old son was talking about how he couldn't find a certain shirt, and I just started going through his drawers. It wasn't in there, but I liked it that he had no problem with me going through every single one of his drawers. Good kid, let me tell you. But anyway, yeah, you should walk into your kids' rooms because sometimes they will, leave a dirty dish to rot or something. You never can tell. And you might find contraband in there, unfortunately, depending on the kid. With one of my kids, I'm checking to make sure that her hamsters and guinea pig have water. So they're all different reasons to walk into every room. Or with my youngest son, I'm checking to make sure that his iguana has enough water in the humidifier and in its little pool. So, yeah. Anyway, we'll talk more about pet chores at the end. So let's head to the bedrooms. Obviously, if you're just totally overwhelmed, you can prioritize, but ideally, I would love for you to enter each bedroom, and unless you have a roommate, an adult roommate or something, head into each room and do some picking up. Obviously, this isn't a deep clean, but, maybe quickly make the bed, throw the comforter across it, and, pick up any laundry. Maybe you need a trash bag as you're doing this, but just, do a little bit in each room. And obviously my kids are responsible for cleaning their own rooms, but sometimes I go in there and clean a room. Not very often though. I check a room, I remove dishes, I say things, but sometimes I will do things like, wipe down their windowsills or something like a deep cleaning task, or maybe do a more thorough vacuum job. With my teenage son, he's 16. He's minimalist. He keeps his room clean and doesn't have much clutter at all. So I mainly I'll just, if he hasn't done it in a while, I might tell him to clean his room. I really get anxiety when he's like doing a ton of homework. School's out now, but he'll have papers just spread everywhere. And I'm like paranoid he's going to lose something, forget something. And I'm like, just get these papers under control. But that's usually the only thing I have to say in his room. He will pick up and vacuum his own room. He'll do his own laundry. He'll wash his bedding. And, everything will be in the right drawers and whatnot. But let's face it, not every kid is like that. So sometimes you have to do something like pull everything out from under their beds. So maybe if you have a school-age kid that's working along with you, hey, you need to put everything away that's under your bed. Open their closet. Ask them to clean up what's on the closet floor. But this isn't a parenting episode. That was for free. Let's move on. Just keep working. Because I realize this might be your cleaning session where you're working alone. Let's talk about reasons to make the bed. They had a discussion at my job. They bring up these random topics like, I don't know, around the virtual water cooler or something. Someone shared an article or a quote about making your bed, and some people were like, I don't make my bed, blah, blah, blah. But there's a real practical reason why I make my bed. And it's not just the thing where it instantly makes your room look better and it's welcoming at night, because, those are definitely reasons. But for me, if I'm not looking, it's not that the dog is really allowed. One dog is very restricted, but my dog has free, my well-behaved dog has free run of the house. And it's not really that she's allowed on the bed, but if I'm not around, she's going to get on my bed. And I don't really like her to get in my sheets. Sometimes she licks herself and gets the bed wet. But she can also just track in kind of like sand and debris from outside. And that may not be relatable to you, but if you have this perfectly manicured lawn and patio and you don't live in a dusty area, okay, but our dogs will track in dust, and there are even these stickers in our yard called goat heads that, you may or may not know what they are, but you don't want them in your bed or even on your carpet for that matter, but vacuuming takes care of that. Anyway, all that to say this, covering the bed with the comforter makes it to where if the dog gets on the bed, she's on the outside and she's not in my sheets. So if you needed an extra reason to make your bed daily, that may apply to you. Another lady in the conversation said that, she makes her bed because her cat might throw up on the bed. Gross. But also making the bed sometimes kind of, I don't know, it starts a chain reaction of cleaning the room because it instantly makes the room look better. It's kind of a springboard chore to get you going. So anyway, but if all you're worried about is removing clutter and you don't have dogs and you want to leave your bed unmade or whatever, I'm not gonna force you to make your bed today, okay? Obviously, I'm being silly. I don't force you to do anything. But anyway, just some thoughts there. Be picking up those bedrooms. Don't get hung up on a laundry pile. When I'm doing a quick straighten of my entire house, I do something called consolidating the pile, okay? If there's a laundry pile in the corner, tighten that pile up so it's not spread out. That way you'll at least be able to vacuum or get it into a basket, okay? I have something called a laundry bin. It's like a wooden chest. I'm not proud of it. But when I straighten up my room, I make sure that nothing's overflowing out of that. Now, if you have some extra time at the end to address the clean laundry pile, great. Because in a few minutes, I'm going to give you a choice of items to work on after your entire house is picked up. Okay? Because ideally by now, you've done at least one dish load. You've picked up your kitchen floor, at least. You've picked up your common areas, meaning your living area, your hallway, and you're in the process. You've straightened up the bathrooms, which I hope included picking up the bathroom floors. I don't know if I talked a lot about that. I talked about overflowing trash, but I'm well aware that you might have had towels and dirty laundry. Okay, I'm not that naive, folks. Hopefully those got picked up. I'm going to give you a couple more minutes to pick up the bedrooms, and then you're going to choose an individualized chore to end with. My mother-in-law used to tell a story about a certain friend she had who would kind of run her finger across the top of the refrigerator to check for dust. I feel like people may have had a higher standard about things like that in the past, when just life was different. And I'm not just saying because more people, the 1950s, I'm not just talking about like a 1950s housewife stereotype where the wife was at home all day and cleaned, but just a lot of things have changed. Even people who are full-time stay-at-home moms are sometimes homeschooling now, or maybe have a side hustle, a remote job, or they have way more kids than their parents and grandparents did. I mean, there's just so many different ways of doing things. And then, of course, there's, there are families where there's either a single parent or both people are working. I say parent, not all of you are parents, but there are just so many different variables. But I feel like nowadays people aren't coming over to your house doing a white glove check for dust. They're just hoping that things aren't strewn all over, okay? If they care at all. Obviously, there's something to be said for inviting people into your home when it's not perfect. You know, they realize you're human and you want to be a welcoming person and friendly and hospitable instead of just, showing off or whatever. I get that. But I'm just saying that today's standards are a little bit different because of different lifestyles. And I don't just mean, two people working. It can also mean homeschooling and different things like that are just different than the situation. Like, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and we were at school during the day, and that's when she did the bulk of the housework. So, in a lot of ways, that's easier than what a lot of us are doing now. And obviously, everyone has problems, and every lifestyle has its challenges. But there's a lot of pressure on women today to kind of do it all and to do more than our parents and grandparents did. And maybe we want to do more, but it's a lot. So I think getting things picked up, tidy, having a system to keep things picked up and tidy, whether it's not allowing certain things to be left out, having 5-minute pickups throughout the day, whatever you need to do. It's a challenge, but we need to adapt to the lifestyle that we have. Not just feel sorry for ourselves because maybe another generation had it easier. I mean, working from home definitely presents challenges. And since my kids go to a hybrid school where they're at school 3 days a week and then they're home 2 days during the week, I can still relate to those who are homeschooling. But also, I don't have the luxury of just getting all my cleaning done while they're at school on the school days, because I'm working a remote job. So I'm trying to squeeze housework into a 30-minute break at times or before work. That's why it's so crucial that I do some dishes before work, start with a clean slate, and then have them cleaning up after themselves. That's how we're functioning right now. You've got to do what works for you. By the way, I told you there was going to be an individualized chore. I'm a little late in announcing that, but maybe you need to go ahead and dust and vacuum. Maybe you're so excited about clearing the floors and surfaces that you want to do those finishing touches of dusting and vacuuming. Or maybe you still feel like your house is cluttered and you want to fold and put away some laundry. Or when I mentioned pet chores, maybe that kind of got you thinking about changing a litter box or washing a dog bed. Or maybe you regretted having to leave the kitchen earlier before everything was done and you need to go back and wash that load that you have soaking, or hand wash another sink load. Okay, just spend the next few minutes doing what still needs to be done. I'm proud of you. I'm assuming you got a lot done. And then something to think about is maybe just how to make your home look a little more sparse if that's what you're after. I definitely see some videos, whether I'm going through just random Facebook reels or TikTok or whatever. I deleted TikTok recently, but I still look at Facebook reels, which I realize is kind of the same thing. Sometimes I look at a kitchen and I'm like, okay, there's nothing in your kitchen, like no decorations, nothing. Like, I would want some pops of color. Why don't you have a toaster, or a coffee maker? These thoughts go through my head. But at the same time, I like the look of very few items on the countertop. Okay. So a lot of times I'll be using something for a while, like a blender or the Instant Pot, and it'll just sit out, and then I'll just start to accumulate things. Or, other things that aren't even appliances. Just something will sit on your counter. You'll get used to seeing it. One way that I try to keep my countertops more sparse is by organizing my pantry in such a way that the bottom shelf is a home for my small appliances, like my Instant Pot, my air fryer, my bread machine. I don't want those to just have a home on my counter, especially when I go through phases. I might be like in a serious crock pot phase. I might, which is a slow cooker if you're not familiar with that brand name. I might be just really into baking bread for a while. Okay, keep out that toy while you're using it, but when you're kind of out of that mode, put it away and get it back out in a few months. So that's one way that I've tried to keep things more sparse, because if I don't organize my pantry regularly, the food will kind of just spread out to where I don't have enough shelf space. But if I keep the food on certain shelves and keep the bottom ones open for the appliances, that helps me keep that clear. The way that I keep my living areas clear, I have storage solutions. I have a coffee table that pops up. You can put things inside it. My entertainment center, so to speak, TV stand has a couple drawers in it. I have 2 kind of decorative baskets. One of them is for additional gaming gear and cords, and the other one is for toys for when my grandson comes over. Something that might sit out for weeks at a time is the pack and play. I'm okay with that. It doesn't bother me. And it's just convenient to have it there, because you got to have a place to put somebody that's just into everything, when you're not watching them like a hawk. So I have a grandson who is almost 1. So the pack and play, and I put him down for naps in there too. And that's usually in the living room. If I get tired of seeing it there, I move it to my room, but I definitely keep it perpetually set up. Another way that I keep my house more sparse is my piano. The top of my piano is where we keep the key basket and a few decorations. People tend to pile stuff there. For some reason, they pile the mail there. It doesn't really go there, but I've got to remove that from time to time. In bedrooms, I think there's this tendency to store random boxes and items around the walls. I'm guilty of that sometimes in my room. So that's another thing to think about. Are you storing things along walls that are not furniture? Maybe there's a better way to get that put away so that your house won't look as cluttered. I'm not being judgy here. I'm just kind of talking about some of my own thoughts and solutions, and maybe something I say will resonate with you. Hopefully you got a lot done during this episode. Special thanks to my financial supporters who support the show on Patreon. Special thanks to everyone who has given me a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure that you follow or subscribe to this podcast so that you'll be notified when I release a new episode, and that definitely helps me out, and it doesn't cost you anything to hit follow or subscribe. And of course, I don't expect anyone to financially support the show on Patreon, but when you do, I greatly appreciate that. But it helps me just when you listen to the show. So most of all, just keep listening. I appreciate each and every one of you. Again, my voice isn't usually this raspy. Thank you for being patient with me. And as always, happy cleaning. I'll talk to you in the next episode.